So, autism meltdowns, do you recognize these three early warning signs? And if you do, there's maybe a really good way for you to realize and recognize that you're about to have an autism meltdown and what you can do to kind of really help that, right? So, autism meltdowns happen regardless if you are the most experienced person in autism or you're just kind of like new to this autism word understanding. If you're newly diagnosed, late diagnosed autistic, then this thing will happen and you will recognize it because I'm about to tell you what it is. So, an autism meltdown, just in the pre-context of what it is basically when there are multiple things happening, sensory stimuli, inputs, overwhelm, which makes you then outburst or overflow. It's kind of like overfilling a glass, right? You're filling a glass of water and you overfill it, all that comes out at the end. And that is what an autism meltdown is. You're just exploding on all areas of just this emotional kind of like ooze of too much happening. And so this happens, and then you feel like absolute garbage and you just don't know what to do. Where do you go now? What do you do now? What's going to happen next? And for days, maybe 3 to 7 days, you feel like absolute garbage because an autism meltdown can absolutely impair you for such a long time, depending on what happened afterwards, and how you then deal with it. I'm going to give you some tips right at the end of how you can kind of like help with autism meltdowns and what you can do directly afterwards. But this is basically the context and how that works. And FYI, guys, my name is Dan and I have autism and ADHD. So if you're new around here and you want to learn more about autism and those type of things, make sure to hit the subscribe button by clicking the notification bell down below. But if you're watching on any other platform, just give this page a follow. I upload daily videos. So, the warning signs, I've labeled 3 down here, which I think are going to be very interesting for you to realize. And they kind of happen simultaneously, meaning they happen along the same time, all together. But you have to be very kind of like quick to spot these, right? Now, you will recognize these, and if you do, you have to give this video a thumbs up. The first one is an anxiety attack, a type of symptom where you start getting a dry mouth and your heart rate increases. This basically means that your body is responding to the fight or flight increase because you now feel fear because you are out of control. And what I mean by out of control is that you're not like, going around like throwing stuff everywhere and smashing windows. What I mean by being out of control is that you've relinquished responsibility for something that is happening, or you have no grasp of responsibility of the things that are happening around you, which means that you now have no control over those things or that environment, and those things have control over you. That's basically all that means. And when things have control over you, you then get fearful for survival, because that's how our bodies work. On a binary system, we're all survival-based creatures. We're trying to survive and push ourselves forward through life, or push ourselves towards survival, right? And so adrenaline starts seeping in because it's wanting you to, like, your muscles start getting tense, you get dry mouth, get heart rate increase.
Guys, behind me is awards that I have won, from MIT, YouTube, WeGo Health, Autism Hero Award, Business Smart Award. All these things happened because I became more confident than I ever imagined. I actually was not confident for many years. Now, I have put together a free download where you can take training from me for free to build up your confidence, lower anxiety, and actually just make life better for autistic adults. And this is what it covers. You can progress without doubt, even if nothing's worked before. Boost energy without having to need more spoons, even if you're running out empty. Be social without overthinking it. Fit in society without losing yourself, even if you feel alienated, and speaking confidently without misunderstanding if people don't get you, right? All you need to do is go to the website www.bulletproofbrain.org right now and download your free pack from me. Link is also in the description of this video. And if you're watching on Instagram, all you have to do is comment brain and I'll DM it to you. Watching on Facebook, if you comment brain, I'll comment back with the link to directly download this.
And the stuff is about to go down. Right. And obviously when we were cavemen, fighting off saber-tooth tigers and predators and stuff like that, those would have been the tools we used to kind of run fast as heck or charge at this animal and use that strength from the muscle tonnage, to go and do that thing we need to do. But in this situation, it's not quite that same thing. It could be that you are in a situation where you're feeling overwhelmed by certain things or certain people or certain asks of you, which means your demands are higher than usual. And being an autistic person, those demands tip you over the edge. And they tip you over the edge, this is what starts to happen. Okay, number 2 is nothing makes sense and all your focus disappears. Nothing's making sense to you anymore. People's conversations, the room you're in, the lighting, the sound, the smell around you, nothing makes sense. Even your clothes start to feel uncomfortable and nothing is making sense. Why? What is going on here? It's because you now have what I like to call the jam signal. So your signals of input, and input could be commands, could be nonverbal input, could be just sight, sound, smells, touch, environment, temperature, clothing, experience, reality, distance from other people, distance from yourself, your own self-identity, your thought process of what's going on. All those things start to not make sense. There's too many variables plugging into you that are draining your attention or needing your attention. And when they need your attention, they stop your ability to focus in the moment and understand who you are, because our brains for neuro divergent individuals is mended differently, which means the inputs of our sensory or stimuli from outside exterior will have the wrong kind of pathway or a different pathway, so it doesn't really go to the same place. So we're having to reroute these things and change things like the old school kind of like, communicators from the operators moving things around. And so you have this, disconnection of the typical way of doing it, which neurotypical or non-autistic individuals do. So nothing makes sense and you start to lose focus rapidly. And number 3 is that you start feeling pulled in many different directions and none of those are clear. Like, do I go home? Do I sit down? Do I go over there? Do I need water? What's going on? You're pulled in many different directions. You're being literally mentally pulled in many different directions, and you cannot make a clear vision or a clear decision on any of those things because they're not making sense to you. And this is fascinating. Those 3 early warning signs can indicate to you you're about to have an absolute meltdown. The best thing to do in a situation is sit down, put your fingers in your ears, and try to hold your breath for 5 seconds and slowly release that breath for 5 seconds to try and reset that system. Once you have done the 5 seconds breathing, 5-second breathing out, get out of the situation you're in, as in change the environment. If you're indoors, go outdoors. If you're outdoors, go indoors. If you're in a parking lot, get in your car. If you're in your car, get into the parking lot. If you're, outside on a summer vacation, get into the pool. If you're in the pool, get out of the pool. You need to change the situation you're in, because this recalibrates how your body is reacting to the environment that you're in, which will allow you to calm down easier, right? Or prevent the meltdown from actually happening. Because when the meltdown happens, you could break your limbs, you could shout and scream, lose your voice, cry uncontrollably. It could be, sometimes embarrassing if you're out in public and you're feeling like, ashamed or overwhelmed, which you shouldn't be because you are who you are and you're a beautiful person. And FYI, give us your thumbs up if you agree. We're all beautiful. So, that's that. But sometimes it may feel like that. And the aftermath is, you really need to drink water ASAP, because the adrenaline is going to dry off that system. You're going to get dehydrated. And when you're dehydrated, your brain starts to give you headaches. And if you're dehydrated for a longer period of time, the effect of dehydration can actually last for a few days afterwards. Like I said, 3 to 7 days, you're going to feel like garbage. So how do you overcome that? Drink a whole glass or a bottle of water as soon as the meltdown or the recovery from has happened. And then you have some way of helping with your ability to kind of come around from that. The other thing I'd say to do straight afterwards is, once you are feeling calmer or more calm, so you're not in that heightened fight or flight situation, do something that brings you joy. Usually for me, this is researching or doing something on my special interest, watching a documentary, reading a book about it, listening to something about that, playing music, or going for a run, right? Whatever it is that you need to do, go and do that ASAP. Now, all of those things are autism meltdown issues, right? Autism meltdown kind of tactics that you can help overcome and maybe prevent yourself, if you know these early warning signs, from having the autism meltdown, which I think is fascinating and I think is definitely a lifesaver for you.